In game 2 for the New York Knicks, it was a 30-point performance from Carmelo Anthony, but he took 26 shots to get to 30.
And you got to give a credit to LeBron James and his defensive effort of fronting and three-quarter him. First half, 21 points, but only 9 in the second.
Baron Davis, who had a good second half in game 2, trying to slide inside. He was whacked on the play. Looked like maybe Wade was reaching in, and also Chalmers. And Chalmers is going to draw his first personal foul for the Miami Heat, who on the road this season were only 18 and 15. They did not thrive like they had in the past away from Miami.
Yeah, which is a little bit surprising to have the second best record in the Eastern Conference. You would have thought they would have been a little bit better on the road, but they have definitely refocused come playoff time. Those first 2 wins, 200-plus points, something they hadn't done in about 3-4 weeks heading up to the playoffs.
Now, in game 2, coming off of game 1, we saw that Carmelo, who struggled so much scoring in the initial game of the series, found more of a rhythm in game 2. What did the Knicks do to get him more involved and get Davis more involved?
They put the ball in his hands. He wasn't trying to fight for position against Carmelo and Shane Battier, as we see when he'll come in. So they put him at that high top area so he could just take a couple dribbles and shoot over the defense.
Here's the matchup we've been talking about, LeBron and Anthony, and there is a defensive 3-second violation. It goes on the New York Knicks with less than a minute gone. New York was a terrific defensive team when Mike Woodson took over, but they have not shown that, as Miami has scored 100 points or more in the first 2 games of the series.
Tell you what, I've liked the first 2 possessions for Miami. The first one, even though that Haslam got his shot blocked into the first row, now they try to come back and post up Dwayne Wade against Landry Fields, who Mike Woodson told us is going to have to play huge for them at the defensive end and really meet Dwayne Wade. As you look at the defensive numbers under Mike D'Antoni and Coach Woodson.
Mike Woodson is an interim head coach, and he, of course, is fighting to perhaps continue with this team, but nothing has been said. The general manager, Glenn Grunwald, has been signed. He was on an interim basis as well, but they have signed him to the permanent position. So Mike Woodson, I guess, is kind of being test-driven by this franchise to see if he can perhaps be their future coach. He was the former head coach of the Atlanta Hawks. Shot clock is down to 5, under a minute. And the drive by Chalmers and outside to LeBron, who took a quick look at the other end of the floor at the clock. Missing an offering, picked up by Haslam. And Miami controls. That rebounding is a big statistic in this game and in this series.
Yeah, Miami's not a great offensive rebounding team, because you don't want to give them second and third opportunities because of the scores they have on the floor.
So Miami has missed their first 4. Davis kicking it out. Novak for 3. Fields, the offensive rebound.
Just the reaction of having Novak on the floor, because the Heat are trying to run him off that three-point line. That allows others on the New York Knicks to get those offensive rebounding because of Novak.
Once again, they got Anthony on James. Little pass here to Haslam. LeBron the assist. And Udonis Haslam, who's not known as a scorer, comes up with 2 right there. He's been a terrific rebounder, and they just elevated him to a starting player for this team about 2-3 weeks ago.
Well, rebounding and defender, but he certainly can knock down that 12 to 15-foot range, especially in pick and pop situations.
Shot clock again down to 4. Here comes Anthony. A 3. Splash the rebound for the Miami Heat, the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, and back of Chicago. For a 2nd consecutive season at the best record in the NBA. This is Wade over Landry Fields.
If you're Mike Woodson, you can live with that. If you can keep LeBron James and Dwayne Wade on the perimeter taking shots, that's what you want.
Here's Fields, who played at Stanford, out to Novak. Good ball rotation. Davis with 3. Davis's back continues to be a concern for this team. It stiffens up pretty quickly, so keeping him on the floor is a big concern.
Yeah, we talked about the top New York Knicks and their ability to make threes. They average about 8 a game. 10 is going to be the magic number for them tonight. As we're talking about threes, there's Chris Bosh from that short corner three-pointer.
Chris Bosh, who is playing in Madison Square Garden. He said, the first time I ever played at the Garden, I was in the McDonald's All-America High School basketball game back when I was a teenager and coming out of Dallas, Texas. My eyes, he said, were as big as you can possibly believe. And he goes, now here I am again, the father of a newborn baby and playing in a playoff game here against the New York Knicks.
There is no better atmosphere in professional basketball. A playoff game here in Madison Square Garden. The fans are just unbelievable.
It's Carmelo Anthony over James. The rebound by Bosh. This is the first playoff game for LeBron and Wade in this building, too.
During the regular season, it's pretty electric, but it goes to a different level as Mario Chalmers knocks down Miami Heat's second three-point basket.
He had 13 in game 2, hit a couple of threes, and so they're getting scoring from sources that they probably don't expect it, like Chalmers, and off the bench Miller and Battier. As Miami is on a little 8-0 run, that was deflected. So it will be the Knicks ball, and they're down by an early 5 points in this one.
I'm telling you, Miami right now is almost a quick 2 steps ahead of New York of getting to these shooters.
Mike Woodson said Miller and Battier the difference in the series so far.
Oh, absolutely, because if you're going to allow the big three, there's a block there on Dwayne Wade.
He caught something in the face there as he was in his nose, perhaps, as Wade picks up his first personal foul.
We all know LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, they're going to get theirs, but we talked about the other three, and there's that inadvertent elbow, looked like to the chin or nose of Dwayne Wade from Carmelo Anthony.
The New York Knicks have lost 12 consecutive playoff games. There's a quick turnover right off the bat, a shove and a foul. And we've got Chalmers and Davis now exchanging some words and jawing at each other. Baron Davis just picks up the foul. That's the first on Baron Davis.
That's a good call there by the official, Mike Callahan. But Baron Davis just extended that elbow to the throat area.
There's a bigger, like I was beginning to say, there's a bigger issue in this game. Davis knocks it away, but the New York Knicks have not won a playoff game since April 29th, 2001. That is 12 consecutive playoff losses. That is tied for the longest such streak in the history of the NBA, tied with Memphis, who did it back in the middle part of the decade.
It's a little bit surprising because you would think New York would have fielded some good teams. But remember, a few of those years, they didn't even make the playoffs.
Swept last year by Boston. Here is Wade. He had so many in-close shots. Kicks out nicely to Landry Fields. Lost the ball. Nice defense. A turnover the other way. Wade to LeBron. Boy, the comfort level that these two guys in particular show with each other's game has just been such a marked difference from a season ago.
Yeah, well, it was a little rocky last year, the comfortability of them getting together, but I think the reason why they're meshing and clicking now has been Dwayne Wade and his reluctance to really give the reins to LeBron James. Here's the turnover by Fields, and look about the Miami Heat is the best team in the league going from defense to offense because of their 2 finishers. Dwayne Wade easily had a dunk right here, but he understood LeBron James trailing. Look at the finish there.
Beautiful.
By number 6.
It's something to watch, isn't it? I mean, it's like a circus act as LeBron just picked up his first personal foul. By the way, he was 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting, which I think surprised some people because his defensive play this season has almost been as good as he's been on the offensive side of the ball.
What did Eric Spoelstra tell us? There's only one other player in history that he can think of, Dennis Rodman, who's able to guard 5 positions.
Isn't that amazing?
And that's exactly what LeBron James does. And not only can he guard 5, it allows Shane Battier and Mike Miller to play extended minutes on the floor because he can guard center.
Richard, you and I have seen him in this series alone. It's a little over 2 games old. Guard a point guard, play point guard, and then guard a center at the other end. Here's Wade, who got a nice feed from the side. And now every starter has scored for the Miami Heat. Haslam picks up the assist right here. And down by an early 7 points. Mike Woodson, and no changes either way for either team. Here is Carmelo playing the 4 tonight. And that has been a position that has really been to his liking. When he was taking the place of the injured Stoudemire at the end of the regular year, he was averaging about 30 points a game from that position.
Well, it's a matchup nightmare for most teams, but you got to understand the flexibility that Miami has because of LeBron James.
There's Fields reaching in on Wade, who will always seduce you with those moves, and a foul called on Landry Fields. He picks up his first for the New York Knicks.
That's something you've got to watch, though. Look at the position that Dwayne Wade is acquiring against Landry Fields. If you're Fields, you've got to force him off his comfort zone. Instead of 15 feet, make him catch the ball 18, 19 feet. That way, if he gets by you, Chandler can help.
Veteran J.R. Smith comes in the game for the New York Knicks. It's a drive by LeBron, a thicket of defenders. The ball was blocked, and here comes New York the other way. I think this is one of the ways they've really got to attack him in transition before Miami's defense can get set.
I absolutely agree with you, but Baron Davis is going to have to push the basketball, though, on block shots and long rebounds.
The Knicks are 2 of 6. It's screened by Novak. Smith puts up a 3. And here comes Mario Chalmers the other way, the veteran out of Kansas. And Harrison looking to set a screen on Davis.
Knicks 0 of 4 from the three-point line.
And Baron Davis the other way. He's had an assortment of injuries. Now in his 13th season out of UCLA. Missed a lot of the early part of the year. All knocked away. It's off of the Knicks. The defense by LeBron, who takes a tumble. That is the 3rd turnover by New York. So Miami has hit 6 of their first 13.
Ball went off the foot of LeBron, but if you look at that left hand of Carmelo, he might have been the last to touch it as it went out of bounds.
Well, of course, the big story here in New York has been all about that guy, Amar'e Stoudemire, the $100 million player. His frustration, of course, after the Game 2 loss, throwing his left hand against a metal and glass case. A good-sized gash ensued. They fly home. Surgery performed the next day. And David Aldridge, he's out tonight, and the Knicks aren't too optimistic about his return in this series.
They are not, Kevin, and he apologized to his team. He apologized to his players. Talking to Tyson Chandler before, he said that he really didn't want an apology from Amar'e. He said, I understood that I didn't want to be the guy to point fingers at him and make the situation worse. The Knicks did not fine Amar'e Stoudemire for his incident. They did not discipline him in any way. Mike Woodson saying before the game that Amar'e's been beaten up enough. He's had a tough year. Remember, Kevin, his older brother, his real role model, was killed in an automobile accident earlier this year. It has been a very difficult season for Amar'e Stoudemire here in New York.
It has indeed, and mixing all the injuries he's had to deal with and the pressure of a new teammate. And Anthony, here is James with that shot clock ticking down. The diving Anthony, little twist around the floor. They call the jump ball. A playoff intense game. And by the way, you just saw Jeremy Lin, who is sitting right next to Amar'e on the bench. Lin is coming back from knee surgery himself. He practiced over the last couple days. He's probably still a week away, they say.
Yeah, when you're down 2-0, it's these 50-50 balls, especially for the Knicks, that you've got to be able to come up with. Carmelo Anthony going to the floor.
So, Reggie, in essence, we've only got one Knick player playing in his natural position. That's the center, Tyson Chandler.
Well, I agree with DA and the Knicks' philosophy of not finding Amar'e Stoudemire. You know, between the media and talk radio, he's taken a beating here in New York City. You know, as a former player, we've all been upset coming off the floor and kick things and hit things, but you just can't take yourself out of one of the biggest moments, especially the playoffs, if you're Amar'e Stoudemire.
This Bosch now has 6 points after he and his wife welcomed their brand new on adrenaline, so to speak. Mike Miller is checked in for the first time. And right on the doorstep, they get Tyson Chandler to put it in. Now, he was really battling the flu early in the series. Had a scoreless 21 minutes in Game 1. Had more strength in Game 2. He says he's 100% tonight.
Yeah, 13 points in Game 2, 6 offensive rebounds, but he's got to be more of a presence at the defensive end here in Game 3.
Right.
You know, especially with Wade and James trying to attack the paint area.
James against Novak on the mismatch. And Novak got him. On the shooting hand, Novak out of Marquette. Got back on his heels, and he's 6'10", but he has no inside game. He's an outside player, and Steve Novak picks up his first personal foul.
Talk about being on an island by yourself. You look at those 2 bookends right there of Carmelo and Baron Davis. Even though Mike Miller has knocked down threes in this series, you've got to get the ball out of LeBron James' hand.
Boy, you really stirred up a storm down in South Florida with your comments about LeBron the other day.
Really? Me?
We told the story about in the offseason how he wanted to do some investigation and just further expand his game and his mind, and talking to Hall of Famers about what it takes to be an NBA champion. And